Hi everyone, this is Olga Mack, working from home, building the future of contracts. And today I am with my very good friend, Lourdes. Lourdes, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, yes. Hi, Olga. So great to be with you. So my name is Lourdes Slater, and I am the CEO of Carta Legal, which is a legal operations and management consulting firm. I am a lawyer and a process expert. I have a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So my focus really in my consulting practice is how to improve processes using technology.
So let's talk about technology. Let's talk about digital transformation. And specifically, what are the foundational blocks? And then maybe we can talk a little bit about how do we actually get there.
Right. So I think, and I always start every conversation with this because I think people jump right away into what technology do we need to get so that we can operate the contract management or the document management better. And they forget that without really thinking about what your people need specifically, you may end up with a product that is chasing a problem as opposed to the other way around. So what you really need to do is you need to have the ability to step back from reaching the goal and walk through the entire process of the goal of digital transformation. And for that, you need to start with your people. You need to figure out what they want and how they want it, what you're willing to spend. That's really very important. And then you need to work on the process, because if you institute any technology initiative without the right process in place, then it's very likely to fail. And the third component that I think is probably perhaps the most crucial is you need to have a culture change, right? We lawyers have been very reluctant to embrace digital transformation in the way that other industries have. And I think that has a lot to do with our training, our motivation, and other factors. But I think we need to address the cultural issues in a particular legal department or law firm, wherever you may be. I think cultural issues are sometimes global, but oftentimes very individual to the organization. And leadership, I think, plays a key role on making that cultural leap and embracing digital transformation as really the way to go. So I think those are the foundational blocks. But I want to say another thing about leadership, because I think this is very, very important. When I talk about culture, I'm talking about changing not only what's encouraged, but also what's accepted, right? So you may be encouraging your team to use, X, Y, and Z system, document management system, whatever technology it is, yet you may be allowing your team to still rely on the old systems and the old way to do things. So a very strong leadership needs to be in place so that you change what's tolerated and encourage and motivate what's to come, what's the future.
I love how you broke it down. So I'm going to actually take a few of those things one by one, because I think they're all very interesting on their own. So let's talk about what people need. And specifically, how do you figure out? It's remember that movie, What Do Women Want? What do people need?
Yes, well, I don't think we've figured out what women want yet. But what legal departments need and what lawyers need today is to have a very clear understanding that technology is no longer an option, but a necessity. So people need to have a realization that things will change from the traditional ways of doing things. And I say people, from users to management. So people need to change how they think about things. And I think the pandemic probably has allowed a lot of innovation to happen very quickly, because necessity is the mother of invention, and all of a sudden we needed things. We needed video conferencing, and we needed e-signatures, and we needed to figure out a way to improve processes and use collaboration tools. So that is, I think, very, very essential. What you need has dramatically changed because of the pandemic, but perhaps, is going to be a better future because of it.
Yeah. What we're observing among our clients is that it's very bottom up. Folks are very vocal about their needs because they want to be effective remotely. They want to collaborate in a way that makes sense. And a lot of the initiatives that we see from our existing clients, from our prospective clients, really just very grassroots. And it's very refreshing because I look forward to kind of more intentional adoption of right processes and technology. The other thing you mentioned was around actually looking at the entire process, kind of having a map, and then choose the direction, and then accelerate the speed, right? So I really like that entire process orientation. Tell me how you think about it, and how you, when you work with the Office of General Counsel, how do you invite the teams to think about that?
So we've all heard this concept of the legal technology roadmap, right? And what I think about that is necessary, and everyone needs a technology roadmap, and that roadmap needs to be prioritized to fit your particular needs. So what I caution clients about is not going with a list that may be provided to you and say, well, you need all of this, but rather really understand what it is that you need. And in your case, you may have a need for a matter management system because your DMS is still working okay. So you still have to figure out, you may need to upgrade your contract management system, even though you have one already, because you haven't looked at that for 5 years or more, and things have progressed so much, and there's so much more that these systems can do. So and contract is like the lifeline of any organization. So you may need to focus on that first, even though different departments or different people within your organization may be arguing for one particular technology. So the roadmap is a great idea. It has to be prioritized based on your particular needs. And to come up with those needs and that priority, you do need what in Lean Six Sigma we call a Kaizen event, or a team approach, which you actually can get a lot out of, because you get into a room for 3-5 days, the decision makers and the users, and a cross-functional team that is able to address all of these issues and have those sort of territorial budget arguments collectively, and decide what's best for the organization or the department right then and there. So that's how I approach that legal roadmap and that process. And after that, each own initiative, you have to divide that in mini projects. So each own initiative gets its own treatment of, what process do you have now? What are the types of waste in that process, and how can we fix it? And then we bring the technology on top of your team agreement on how it is that we're going to proceed, the priority.
I like the way you think holistically. You also mentioned my favorite C word, which is contract. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. I'm sorry, I had no intention. I'm sorry, not sorry. So you mentioned there's a lot of innovation, and you also mentioned in contract, and that you really need to kind of evaluate your needs. How do you think about sort of what has been exciting in contract innovation? And it is, as you said, the lifeline of the organization. I completely agree with you on that. And how do you invite the Office of General Counsel to think proactively, intentionally about their contract?
Inviting people to think about technology really requires a lot of coaching and leadership and things that have nothing to do with technology, but that are more big picture. So inviting change really invites a new way of thinking, and the why we need to have a new way of thinking, which for us lawyers include a lot of training on the ethics and the professional duties and responsibilities of lawyers, right? So that's one thing. Once you have the client sort of understanding why, particular innovation is needed. Let's pick, for example, contracts. You may get the answer, well, we have one. It hasn't really been adopted properly. People don't like it. You've heard all of the excuses, right? And, since we have one already, we're not going to buy another one, and, because we're going to have the same experience. So what you do then is you have to either figure out whether the system has even been upgraded in the last 5 years. Sometimes it hasn't. And then you also have to figure out, how much money they're spending on that and what the options are. So you can present a plan or options to the client. There has been a lot of new exciting technology and innovation, including AI changes to automation, digitation, and also sort of like integration with other systems. I think integration is a huge thing that must be included in how you view contracts in your organization. Educating clients on what else is out there, how much it costs, and they're different products, right? They're products that are better suited for the enterprise level, if that's what you're looking for, and they're products that are more niche or compact, that are great for small legal departments or medium-sized legal departments that want to keep the contract management within legal alone. So again, these are types of conversations that you have to have with your individual clients all the time to figure out what is best for them. But I think that, changing how you view innovation, it is certainly necessary, because what leaders and management know is that 70 to 80% of all innovation initiatives fail. At least they do not succeed to the extent that they can succeed. So they're very hesitant to, even nowadays, especially nowadays, to spend even more money on innovation. So what you have to do is really explain why those initiatives may not have succeeded in the process, which include, the people process we discuss, and sort of show the improvements in technology, because technology keeps growing and improving exponentially. And that's something that legal departments and law firms really need to understand. What was a great idea and a new product 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, is now so much better. Sometimes within the same company, sometimes, that company hasn't innovated themselves, and you have to go with another company. But there's a lot of due diligence and a lot of discussion that needs to happen to figure out what's best for your department. I was talking last night with a friend of mine who is the CEO of a fashion industry company. And he's talking about getting, he's going to have a long night because the lawyers just made changes to the contract, and he is going to have a hard time figuring out what they changed, and he has these different versions. And I asked, you're not using like a contract management system where this could be done sort of simultaneously? And they're like, no, we're using Word documents back and forth. And this is a big New York law firm handling this case, right? And the client doesn't have a huge legal department, so they're not sophisticated enough to know that these technologies even exist. But it's baffling to me that you still have clients looking at Word versions of documents and trying to compare them late at night, spending hours, and that's prone to be full of errors.
Yeah, we find that law firms are yet to discover fully the beauty of various contract technologies out there, and there's many options in that buffet. Somehow they're not as active. There are some exceptions to that. I would say what we see is a lot of innovation in-house, where there is a very strong leader who is taking it in her capable hands and showing the way. So that somehow doesn't surprise me. I also completely agree with you that integration, data, and automation are sort of key drivers, and those kind of are value to the to in-house departments. and they very much embrace it before COVID, during COVID. I think this will continue. I want to talk a little bit about culture. It's my other favorite word. You talk about kind of the presence of a strong leader and, what we accept/tolerate versus what we require and the ambiguity there. But what factors have you seen affect in the culture the strong adoption of new processes and technologies and modernization of legal department that you think correlate with success?
Well, I guess I'll give you a perfect example, right? A few years ago, I was advising a client on a document management system. And there was a lot of resistance. And my reason why I really wanted them to change is because they were spending too much money. Customer service was not great. There were better products out there at a better price. But they had a lot of data already in this document management system. It had already been coded. They were in the middle of the case. So the partner in charge, or my client, basically said, this is not going to work. But we really need to save all that money because we need the money for other things. But if you get this wrong, you're fired. And I'm like, okay, deal. However, what I need from you is I need you to, the weekend where the transfer is happening, to stay with me and the vendor and to learn how to use the system so that on Monday morning, we present this to the entire team and you show them how to do it. So he spent Saturday and Sunday for 8 hours learning a new system, learning how it works, figuring out why it was better. We presented together on Monday morning this beautiful new platform, explained how nothing had been lost in the process and how much it was going to benefit them in the long term. And that was the end of it. So all of the prior weeks of attorneys complaining, we should not do this, this is crazy, I was able, by virtue of having a strong leader, to change management. You need people like that. You need people to really be with you. You need to have that advocate that will not only help you through it, but also then tell other people about what innovation can do for you. So I think culture change is huge. And we did not do, and I don't typically recommend, there's a lot of clients and leaders and managers, the first thing that they say is like, well, we can try it, but some people are going to keep their old system, so we need to have both. And that is the kiss of death, right? When you are bringing new innovation and you really want to transform the way to do things for the better and increase efficiencies, you cannot leave the crutch in the office because at least 60% of the people will go back to the crutch and will not embrace new technology, because embracing anything new requires executive function, requires you to spend time thinking and learning how to adopt and learn a new system. So people are reluctant to do this. And if you have the option of going back to your stack of papers, then that's what you'll do. I mean, how many times you've heard, just print all of that and put it in my office, I'll review it. And at some point, to my credit, years ago, I said, no, we're not doing that anymore. But giving people options, it really just keeps them behind. I mean, it's just, you go back to the way that you were trained unless you're really forced to change. Now, a lot of people say that's really aggressive. I prefer using the carrot, right? Like motivating innovation, having like a grassroots sort of like, this is really working. Let's show the rest of the team how this project has helped us. Rewarding monetarily or even by giving innovation awards. Those people that are trying to make change within your company, I think, are great approaches, probably a lot better than, using the stick. But there's a place for everything and there's a time for everything. And when you're spending a lot of money implementing a new system and leaving the old system still functioning clunkily in the back, it's not going to be the ideal.
Yeah, we find different people need different things. People respond to all kinds of things. So, but yeah, strong leadership. I like the commitment from the top. When you have a fearless leader spending his or her weekend for 8 hours a day and show the commitment, it really makes a big difference. We've interviewed many folks, and we found that when they see their managers, their GC use the system, people will show up. It's like a venue, right? Where GC shows up, where the leaders of the department show up, everybody will be there. And technology and platforms and processes are those kind of digital venues. And if they are encouraged and supported and patronized by the leaders, everybody else will be there. So really great observations. Let's talk about structure and legal department, because that's something I deeply care about. I build legal departments. And I thought about what is an optimal way to do it. How do I optimize it for innovation? How do we modernize with the product we're building of our clients? So what are my choices if I were to build a legal department from scratch? Kind of, how do you think about it? What are the models and what are the choices?
You and I probably have very similar views on how we do this. I think that a strong legal department needs to have a strong legal team and a strong legal operations team. I think legal operations is necessary to really have the legal department of the future. I think legal operations is a very interesting space right now, and it can be filled with the right people or the wrong people. So hiring the right team to be your legal ops team is key. You can either hire from outside or upskill from within. So I think those are very important things to think about. But I think the legal department of the future, and there are many theories of it, has to be more than the traditional T, and it has to include all different kinds of skills and ability and collaboration. So you need to have an innovation team, or you need to have people focused on innovation. You need to have people focused on data governance. You need to have people focused on security. You need to have people focused on that legal technology roadmap and priorities. You absolutely need project management, and you absolutely need process improvement experts. A lot of people tell me when I start talking about, you need compliance, you need privacy, you need cybersecurity, you need legal innovation, you need process experts, that this is just a unicorn and this will never happen, right? And that is what I always stress, and I think I've heard you and others talk about collaboration, because you don't have to do this alone, right? There's so many people out there that are in this space in a way that a GC or his and her lawyers cannot be, because they have traditional legal work to do. So you have to let go, know what you know what you don't know, upskill from within, yes, hire the right people, yes, and collaborate with the experts out there and with the tech solution providers. I mean, there are so many people that have had such great success stories with their consultants and their vendors, technology vendors, because they have approached those vendors as partners, not as sellers of a piece of technology that you put in the shelf. And I think we have to think about the ecosystem as working together, kind of at the same level. These are not, I remember when I started practicing law, there was like the lawyers, and then there were like the paralegals. There wasn't even lit support back then, and there were like the vendors. Oh my God, we have to talk to them. But that has changed dramatically, because without the knowledge that all of these people have and bringing that to the table, we are completely lost. And there is a lot of there are a lot of options out there, right? $1.3 billion invested in legal tech last year, 800% growth the prior year. The legal technology market, the software market, is valued at something ridiculous like 15 billion. So there's a lot of options in the market. Once you do your due diligence and you select your few people, the RFP process has to be a very personal one, and you have to ask not only what you want, but you have to ask the vendor to tell you their stories. I always like to basically say, if have you seen what we want to do done by anyone, and how did they do it? So find out from others what they have seen, what has succeeded, what has failed, why things haven't failed with this particular technology, so that you can take that into account when you do your own thing. So it's selecting a vendor or going through an RFP process to me is not a one-sided thing. It has to be, you can't just tell them what you want. You have to tell them, this is how I want it to be. Can you tell me how what I want could be better?
I'm with you. Just first of all the list of you mentioned: innovation, data, security, roadmap, project management. Those are not necessarily the skills that many lawyers have. And so admitting it and being at peace with that is sort of the first step. And then really inviting people into your department who can bring those skills, who may not be lawyers, but nonetheless have very valuable insights. I do think that legal departments should have a fairly large percentage of professionals who may not have gone to law school, who may not have sat through the bar exam, but they may be experts in data, in security, in project management, you name it, and they absolutely have a lot to add to your table, and should be invited and should be equal participants and co-creators. I remember when the conferences were still happening, right before COVID, I attended a couple of legal tech conferences, and it was really baffling to me that the lawyers go to the left to be educated, and the vendors go to the right to exhibit. And those two worlds are separate in one legal tech conference, because there is still a little bit of fear and a little bit of tendency of protecting the in-house lawyers from the vendors. And it always baffled me. And most of my career, I've been an in-house lawyer, I've been the general counsel, and it always baffled me because, if you truly can collaborate with your vendors, with your technology producer, you can be a true co-creator. We definitely see it times and times again with our clients, especially because we mold our product with the feedback of clients, and so we learn from them, they learn from us, and this world where in-house lawyers go to the left and vendors go to the right, that has to change. That absolutely has to change, and the Office of General Counsel should stop tolerating this segregation and really reinventing the wheel every time you are thinking about modernizing your department. Lourdes, I can talk to you all day. I always learn so much. I like the way you think. I like the way you approach and the way you change the future of law one department at a time. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing, and thank you for having this conversation with me.